international years. Welcome to the third episode of the KacyC Show, your lead to excel. This is your host KacyC Chauhan here with my belief in 3Ds, which is diligence, determination, and dedication.
And this is your host Rita. I have to believe that I keep my heels, head, and standards high, which literally means the heels which make me watch my step, the standards which are very high, and the head which never looks down.
We have here with us Ron Finlay. Ron Finlay is the winner of the Canadian Proficiency Disc Jockey Association, a two-time winner. He is a 5-rated professional MKey Excellence Award winner. Ron Finlay is a motivational speaker, a postgraduate electromechanical engineer since 1980, a DJ and an MC 1981, ballroom and Latin dance teacher since 1986, and a small business coach and a seminar leader since 2017. Wow! Multi-professional, multi-talented, multi-skilled. Welcome, Ron, to the KacyC Show.
And thanks. I love to be here and multiply appreciative of the opportunity
awesome,
to be on the multiple thing.
So many careers, Ron.
Yes.
And I can see that 4 things there, right? So an engineer, a DJ, and you've also written books, and you are a dance teacher as well.
Yeah.
Wow. So could you tell us more as to how come this switch in so many careers?
Well, not so much switching. I found a mechanism by which they're actually connected. So I've run all of these careers concurrently, not sequentially.
Oh, okay.
That's been the funniest part, because it is an odd collection of talents. So it started off with engineering. And I had an interest in this because my cousin went to the University of Waterloo ahead of me. He had built an amplifier for music. And I stood up on a stool and looked inside, and he'd made the top out of plexiglass so you could see all the little parts. Mm-hmm. And I thought, that's really neat. That was my exact phrase, that's neat. And on the basis of that 30 seconds of exposure, with no idea what it is, I took on the plan to follow in his footsteps and go to electrical engineering at Waterloo because that was neat.
Neat.
No idea what I was getting into. Then I went into high school, into electronics and electricity, and studied all that, which gave me the lead into university. When I was in university, I went to Waterloo's, which is a co-op, and that means 4 months on, 4 months off. So you're working every other term. So you end up going to school during the summer. And during the summer, I had the opportunity to take a ballroom dance class at the university, where a studio came to us, because we don't have cars, we're in school. And of the 12-week course, on the 12th week, the teacher didn't show up. So here I am learning to dance, and now we have no teacher. So someone has to be the leader. So I stepped ahead and said, well, why don't we just do a review of everything we learned? Well, all the guys said, well, that's great, but we don't know the girls' part. And all the girls said, I don't know the guys' part. I say, but I know it all, because I can transpose what the teacher was doing. So I had mastered all the steps in all the dances for both parts. So I taught the last class, and that was 1976. And then I realized, well, this was fun. It was easy to engineer the mechanics of dance and to transform the art into the science. And so I began teaching.
Wow.
During my off times. And then when I graduated in 1980, I went to my first ever corporate Christmas party.
Okay.
As a guest, and I had a dance partner with me, and the DJ had an empty dance floor, nobody dancing, so I asked for a song that was in a movie. And he had the record. He said, yeah, I got the song right here. I said, great, can you play it? And he put it back in his box, and he never played it. And I thought, you have an empty floor, I'm a dance teacher, I can dance, I could light this party up, why don't you play the song, because nothing else is working? And he didn't care. That's a key word for me, as you will see, is caring.
Caring.
So I decided, that was December 5, 1980. So on January 10, 1981, I bought the biggest sound system I could find. No idea where I was going to put it, if it would even fit in my car. Fortunately it did, but that was not the issue. I bought the biggest and the best I could find, and I started my own DJ business simply out of frustration that was not good enough. Surely I could take my engineering degree, my dance background, my music collection. How hard can it be to just play music? Well, I got to do my first wedding in June, and I had no idea what to play. I thought, okay, this is the missing piece. This is hard, because I don't know what the people asked for or liked. So I got some paper from the hall manager. I handed everybody a little sheet of paper and said, write down whatever you want, and people wrote down songs, many of which I had, some of which I didn't. The ones I had, I played, and they packed a dance floor. And I thought, this is interesting. You ask for what they want to hear, and you play what they want, and they have fun. So requests have been a mandate of the company for 37 years. And now, with ease, and long since before now, I would say going back 1987, we've been able to play 100% request-driven at every event.
Wow.
We never run out of music that they ask for. I hardly ever pick songs because they pick what they like, and we've got huge collection nowadays.
Yes.
So that's how the three are merged.
So your own very favorite quote by Henry Ford, whether you think you can or you cannot, you're right.
That's right. I love that quote. That is such a powerful quotation because, see, when it comes to your dedication, and I know you're big on commitment, when it comes to these kinds of philosophical points of decisiveness, that's another D, right?
Yes.
And there's lots that we can do all these letters. It's so
There's
cool.
a list.
There's so many of these words that are powerful. When people make a decision, even if it's to not do something, that is also a decision. It's a decision to not. Whether it's the right decision, well, that's the one they made. So in their mind, they're right. You might disagree, but it's their decision, and then they suffer the consequences, or they reap the benefits. And I think that too many people in life give up. And I'll tell you something, the best thing my father ever taught me, of many, many things, was never give up.
Wow.
And I have been steadfast on a mission for my entire life and done some incredible things. But in many other areas that you haven't even mentioned yet. But it's all about perfection, and it's all about never give up, ever. Because in the process, and you use that word too, Rita, in the process of failing is to fail forward. You know, you said you never look down.
No.
Well, I don't look down either, but I do look when I'm falling, but I make sure I fall forward. That you learn something from the misfortune. That you say, okay, that didn't work. It didn't work as well as I thought. It cost more than I thought. It took longer than I thought. What didn't I know that I could have known, or that I know now, that my next project or next step or next journey can be more predictably, calculatively successful, and I know it's going to be. And then you move with confidence, which is another C, so we can get in all the letters. It's funny. So I'm a three. I have 3 C's.
Yes.
Oh, tell us, please.
And this goes into the public speaking, which is the MC award that you mentioned. It's confidence, charisma, and confidence, charisma. That's funny. I forgot the other one.
And confidence?
Confidence, charisma, and content.
Content.
You have to have something to say.
I could have said capability.
Well, no, that's a Q. No, that's a C as well. Yeah, you have to have enough content of value, but you have to deliver it with confidence. And you have to have the chutzpah, or the confidence, and the charisma to be stage ready. You can't go out and be shy. If you're going to get on a microphone, then you need to own the room. We talked about that the night.
Yes,
And it very much is about being large and in charge. These are all going to rhyme. You just know it. They all rhyme. It's fun.
Yeah. So the 3 C's were the confident, charisma,
And content.
Oh, wow. All right.
Well, the word with the C again, which is the caring word, like you said that you had the desire to care about the DJ and the dance form. There are many individuals out there who do care, but they do fail at caring too, because they don't know how to care and they don't know what to take the next steps into, because like people fail in caring also.
That's
because
right.
caring is a very, I think, emotional aspect of a human being, where you have that desire to really do something for someone because you say, hey, there's a need and it's not happening the right way, which it should be happening in, like the DJ example you gave.
Right.
That dance floor was empty and we're like, we're here to dance, but no one is caring for
That's
us to
right.
dance.
That's right.
So what about like the failure part in the caring? I mean, how do you like overcome your failures when it comes to the caring aspect of it?
Okay, the big phrase in the entrepreneurial world today is find your why. Why do you do this? If you figure out the why, the what and the how will show up. These are what people are teaching out there in that motivational space. And I think the problem with most people is that they say they care, but at the first face of adversity, they stop caring because it's too difficult. There's too many obstacles. It's not worth it to me. Why should I bother? Someone else will do it. Well, no, someone else won't do it, or it would have got done already. So the issue then of caring, true caring, is that you will never give up. Not trying, but finding a way. I don't use the word try. I don't try to find a way. I find a way. And it's interesting when you take certain words out of your vocabulary, and try is one of them.
Yes.
Can't, won't, should. There's no should, just do it. Now, you remember Yoda, since we're in Star Wars world, there is do or do not, there is no try.
No.
I love that one.
Yeah.
Vince Lombardi was a football coach in the 1960s, and his big phrase was, if you do not aim for perfection, you will not achieve excellence.
Yeah.
And no one's perfect. But his point, and to yours about looking high, if you don't look high, you do not see that which is high. If you look low, you see low, and that's where you fall. I mean, many a person has looked down, and guess what? They fall right there.
It is even like that 9 and 6 example there, where like I'm seeing the 9 and you're seeing the 6,
Absolutely.
and they both are just flipping over and be like, well, I'm seeing from a 9 feet high and you're seeing from 6 feet high, so that's really the gap which we need to fill.
That's right, and
like
it's a different
empty and half
vantage point. And you know, the glass is half full, glass is half empty. There's that. And then there's halfway in a pipe and halfway out. So if you're halfway in a pipe and you get stuck, yes, going backwards is easy because you could get unstuck. You've already been there.
Yes.
There's no discovery. What discovery is what's ahead. So you might as well just keep forging ahead. So all of this is intended to move forward relentlessly and never give up.
As to what you were saying, I remember a quote here. It says, so few are the easy victories as the ultimate failures.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, most people will fail more times by a good margin, usually 5 or 10 to 1, which means you have a 10% chance of success. Well, it's a whole lot better than a lottery, which is millions to 1. So when you think about it, we are in control of what we choose to take control of. And if we choose to be a bystander or a spectator, then we will watch the world go by.
There you go.
And another phrase a friend of mine uses, one of the gentlemen I wrote all the books with, lead, follower, get out of my way. I love it. It's really decisive. It's lead, follow, or just get out of my way.
Get out of my way.
Yeah, well, you know, because it becomes a case of complacency. You know, you see you're turning at the traffic light and people are walking across the crosswalk like they have all day. Like, I'm in traffic, there's a car, you could hurt, and they look at you like I'm going to take forever. That could get somebody run over, and yet people wander through life in a daze. Like you say, they're not looking up.
No.
They're on their phone, they're walking across the street, and then they get hit. Now it's whose fault? Well, you know, I move with purpose. To me, it's now or sooner.
Sooner, yes.
Those are my two timelines, now or sooner, which means we're late. and with that, I'm not saying I'm impatient, well, I am, but I'm urgent. I'm all about urgent because another fabulous quotation, I don't remember where it came from, the quote is, do something worthwhile today because you're giving up a day of your life to do it.
Yep.
And I'll share this with your viewers. There's a thing called a triad. A triad is a triangle, and the 3 corners or the 3 vertices have names, and the top one, I'm going to quiz you for a second, even though it's live TV. What is the most precious resource in the world? The most precious thing we have is time. Now, most people get time if you think about it, but then the question is why? And people say, well, you only have so much or whatever, and the answer is not any of those. It's you don't know how much you have. Like today could be the last day.
True.
If you knew that, you would do something different.
True.
But when you don't know that, it makes it incredibly precious. The other one is risk and money. So those three vertices are time, risk, and money. And the point being that when people do things, every decision we make, you only get 2 out of 3. If you decide to leave a little late to be somewhere trying to save time, you run the risk of being late. If you speed, you might get a ticket which costs you money and you're even later. So you can argue all those 3 things. Now, interestingly, you only get 2 out of 3, ever, with any decision you have ever made or will ever make. But now that you're aware of the triad, you start to think differently. What's interesting about you get 2 out of 3 as a success, failure is when you only get 1.
Only get 1.
Wow,
And it's
there you go.
definitively diagnosable to that level, that you only got 1 of them. When, back to your point, there's a priority.
Yes.
And because you put this ahead of that, and it failed, it's because the order was wrong, which gets us into the 5 rules of my engineering. And so all of my life is stitched together and then became the workshops. That's the launch in 2017.
There you go, everybody. So we are discovering so much. This is such an interesting talk that we really don't want to stop here. But we do have to take a break, and we are going to come back. I would like to end my break with a quote again, which again after hearing Ron, and it is that only a life lived for others as is a life worthwhile. Only a life lived for others is a life worthwhile. And this is Albert Einstein. We are going to come back and discover the engineering aspect of Ron Finlay. Thank you. See you soon.
I'm at KacyC's English Excel at Canada in Brampton. I'm here to study the IELTS General Training course. It's a 5-hour intensive writing course which includes all the writing task 1 strategies and writing task 2 strategies too.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the second part of the KacyC show, your lead to excel. And as you all know, today with us we have here Ron Finlay, who's gonna lead us to excel here in the show today. We were speaking to him about his background, what he's been doing, and we learned he's an engineer, he's turned into a DJ, and he also does ballroom dancing. He teaches ballroom dancing, plus he's a professor too. The engineering part of Ron Finlay, the very interesting thing in here is that he has invented and created a program or a design where he says it to be infallible and it's fail-proof. Fail-proof. Ron, how can any design be fail-proof?
First mistake people make in design is that they do not anticipate failure, and they fail to decide when is it long enough. So if you were to buy a pair of shoes and they lasted 2 years, maybe they were only designed to last 2 years. So it's unreasonable to think they would last 20. That's when unreasonable kicks in. So if the design life, due to the environment in which it's existing, whether it's shoes, tires for your car, shingles on your roof, they have a design life. So do they fail? Well, eventually the pyramids will wash away into the desert. So what is that, 20,000, 50,000 years? That's a long time. So it's not that they fail. They would never fail in anyone's lifetime. So let's be reasonable. That's the first thing. People have to be reasonable. But as far as failure goes, I have found a way to design a product, or frankly anything, that will not fail within more than reasonable lifetime.
Oh, wow.
Given the environment that it's intended to work in. Now, why does it fail? Because you didn't account for all of the elements in its environment. That's key. That's a key thing. So these rules that I found or discovered or invented, however you want to put it, it was more an observation, and I thought, well, that's interesting, or going back to the beginning, that's neat. And I put a name to the rule, and then I discovered another parameter, and I started to build out this philosophy of design, and then I started to test it. And everything I found that failed in my engineering world could be explained using the 5 rules. Everything that I designed that obeyed the rules didn't fail. And everything that I had to fix, the solution was one of the 5 rules. That universality to me is good enough because it proved to me that I was on to something. So that's kind of the beginning of, that's 1995.
Awesome. So looking at the time, I think time is government, as we're talking about, like govern like yourself, so you're protected in your own space too. Like the choices we make in our life turn the pages of whatever we do. So it was also a choice for you to design. I mean, talking about Seneca, you are a professor there too, and you also invented like the product design course.
That's right.
So tell me about that thing. Like, how did you come up with that innovation of product design itself?
I was in the automotive industry. The company I worked for, their method of designing a product would be to change something and try it, and then change something and try it. And to me, it was hit and miss. Long story short, they had ordered a whole bunch of electronic parts, motors, gears, all kinds of stuff that didn't work out. Rather than being able to predict if it was going to work, they just tried it, and they had this whole pile of stuff they were going to throw in the garbage. So I called Seneca College, and I said, do you have a robotics lab that could benefit from all these parts? Because they're just parts, and kids need parts. They said we'd love it. So the dean came over. We loaded his van full of boxes and boxes of parts. And then the school was kind enough to give a tax receipt to my company to say, here, this is what it's worth from a tax deduction. I was like, wow, fantastic. So they got to going on this course, and they had a course they were offering on design failure mode effects analysis, or DFMEA. And they asked, would I review the curriculum? Since that's part of what I was doing. And I'll touch on what I actually did my whole life in a minute. So I looked over the curriculum and I said, this is okay, but rather than try to analyze failure, why don't you teach them how to design it right in the first place? Of course, I already have my 5 rules at this point, because now we're 2002. So they said, we don't have a course like that. I said, but I could teach that in my sleep. And so began a 13-year career at Seneca, teaching engineering design from the perspective of the 5 rules of Ronnie, we'll call them that. And I indoctrinated or incorporated those rules into the lessons for the students and created this course, and it ran for 13 years. And interestingly, the students were given a project to build, to design and build in accordance with the philosophy. And in 13 years, with an average class, I'm going to say of 15, and 1 year the course actually ran twice in 1 week, like twice concurrently. We never had a duplicate project. They all created the same thing they're supposed to, but they never duplicated how they did it. There was that many different ways to do the same thing.
Yeah, like the probabilities were different.
Well, they each had a little different take on it. One would use a box this big, one would use a box this big, one would put the switch here, one would put the switch here. And because they all had a different reasoning, they all came up with different. So if you lined up 13 years worth of products together on a table, there would be no two the same. Remarkable from them to be so different. And yet, when you drill into the philosophy that drove them, they're all identical. I thought that was interesting. So that was the 13 years I spent doing that. It was to get this message out to the masses, because something else we have to share with your viewers. In addition to my 5 rules, and there's 13 of them, but we're talking about 5 for engineering.
The main ones.
the front 5 anyways. The rest are on organization and then personal development, which is how we got up to 13. Number 8 is slow down and go faster. You know that one already. That's a powerful one. That's about people who are in too much of a hurry to stop long enough to think it through, and then they end up buying the wrong thing or building it the wrong way, and it doesn't work.
We need to breathe.
Slow down and go faster. So that's 8. So we'll get into the rest later. The issue here, though, was that people are too quick to jump to a conclusion. So the course was all about taking the time to appreciate the environment in which your product's going to hopefully coexist. And if it's going to rain, it might rust or rot. If it's going to be hot, it would melt. The clip for my phone is not made for outdoor, so if it gets cold and I snap the phone in, the plastic's too brittle and it'll break because I'm going outside of the temperature range of the plastic. Well, it wasn't designed for that. Well, yeah, but that's the environment that it could live in, and so it's designed to fail. Fundamentally designed to fail, which is disappointing for me. So, but I have not just 13 rules, I have 25 axioms.
Oh, okay.
An axiom in my world is an inarguable statement.
Okay.
And the number one axiom of the 25 of them, and these are kind of my guiding principles, is that knowledge is the only thing in the world you can give away and still have.
Yes.
Now, if you think about that, it's kind of obvious, but if you think about it this way, if I teach someone something, I don't lose it for having given it to them.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about giving it for money, or I'm not talking about the commercial side of it. I'm talking about giving knowledge. If I teach you to do something, you know how to do it, you know how to do it, 100 people know how to do it, and I still know how to do it. It's not like I gave away my pen and now I don't have a pen. So it's a valuable philosophy to say you can teach people something with all the enthusiasm and gusto you want and not lose out on it. In fact, you gain.
True.
Because how I teach you, how successfully you implement, makes me think, I didn't explain that well enough for this person, but for that person they totally get it right away, so maybe I need to adjust the delivery, and so becomes the public speaking, and then so becomes the mentoring and all this coaching stuff that helps people get further faster than their way. Because their way isn't working, because they are where they are and not where they want to be.
Yes.
Now, are they not aiming for perfection and not achieving excellence? Are they not looking high enough? Are their heels too low? All of these things drive to, do you have the focus? And we talked about that the other night. Do you have the focus? Do you have the commitment, the dedication? And then do you have the charisma to push forward through the obstacles of shyness, introverted, or whatever those things are that hold you back from being found and seen in the world as who you really are? Because there's nobody on this planet that doesn't have greatness within. Sometimes it's not cultured by their parents or their living circumstances, and they are constrained. Now, if your viewers look up the word square in the dictionary, they will see my picture. Because when I was younger and shy, and then when I discovered dancing, my world changed. And it was, I'll tell you something, you talk about my engineering, the best thing I ever learned to do was dance. Beyond my engineering, because it gave me the confidence to do everything else, and it is the sole most valuable thing I ever learned.
And talking about dancing, well, we all know, like,
I think we'll cover that in the next session, segment. But Ron, coming to the commercial side of what you were discussing, you made $60 million for a company just in 15 seconds.
Yeah, that was my biggest design success, and also I'll tell you the story. In the industry where we were in, the nature of design was that the customer would give you the money to build the design, test the product, and the tooling, like stamping dies or molds or whatever the process was to make the parts. They would pay for that and they would own it. And when you buy a car, you can get the high-end car, the intermediate, or you can get the base model. In the high-end car, there's a bunch of switch. This is for switch design, so I have to give you some specifics or it won't make sense. So when you have a bunch of switches together, they're called a gang, because they're ganged together. So on the high-end car, there's 2 switches. On the next one down, there's a switch, and the other one's a dummy plug. It doesn't do anything. On the low-level car, it's the other way around. The other one's the dummy, and this one does something. So you only get one function. And when you buy the high-end car, you get both. So the customer's feedback was that people were complaining because it's like, well, what didn't I get?
Yeah.
What didn't I get told? Because I have this plug that doesn't do anything. Why doesn't, oh, that's the next car up. Well, and they feel cheated in a way. Now, that may be beyond their budget, but the point is, why is it a dummy plug? So the customer's response to their customers, the buyers of cars, was, we want a single button to fill the space of the 2 buttons. So it looks like you got what goes there. So it belongs. Because it's cheaper than retooling the mold for the dashboard, which would be over $1 million just for the mold. to make the hole smaller. So we had to design a 1-gang switch to the size of a 2-gang switch. Sounds like simple. It's like riding 2 horses at the same time and they don't agree which way we're going, and you fall on the ground.
Whoa.
So the company designed a switch based on their, what turns out to be flawed philosophy, contradictory to my rules, just so we get there, and it didn't work. Not only did it not work, we actually did the analysis and found 17 ways to prove it doesn't work.
Wow.
By adjusting the dimensions of the parts within the tolerance that's allowed by the drawings. And it will not work, never will, cannot, will not, done. So I said to my boss, let me show you what we have to do. And in 15 seconds, I drew a sketch on the whiteboard. And I said, this will work, and this is what you have to do. And the cost for the tool change was $55,000 of our profit, which is not good, because we've already spent all the customers' money. The switch came in and it worked. Well, it worked sort of because they greased it in the wrong place because they didn't read the drawing. So now it goes through testing without the benefit of lubrication. Dust, so they do 10 years worth of wear and tear in a month. Dust, salt, temperature, corrosion, you name it, whatever your car experiences, the switch gets impacted by this at a level that it would probably never see, but all in a month. And it's horrific testing. And the switch passed without the benefit of lubrication, which, because I designed it not to need the grease, because I don't like that anyway. The customer liked it so much that they ordered $60 million worth of the product, and it's in every single vehicle they make in that class. So, and that decision took me 15 seconds, and it's based on the 5 rules. So when it's that profound that you see something, you have a philosophy that's proven, and you can implement immediately, and it works, and you do that over and over and over, you soon develop confidence.
Yes.
Wow.
And then having the public speaking charisma to approach a boardroom of pretty big people to say, this isn't going to work, here's the solution, this is what it's going to take, and I can assure you it will work. To have that confidence, for them to spend that kind of money when they're up against a timeline wall, remember time, risk, and money? Well, there's no amount of money that can change the timeline, and the risk of failure is unacceptable in automotive.
Unacceptable,
You cannot have a car go down the assembly line with a hole in it, where there's a piece missing.
Yes.
So it became critical, and it had to work. But the combination of my background made me confident. I knew what I needed to do, so I did it, and it worked. So that's what that one's about. I just think it's kind of cool.
It is very cool.
It is definitely very cool. And it's your own quote which Ron says here. It is that being a DJ, you either choose you can make or break your event. So let's choose to make it. And I would say, again, one of Ron's quote again, which we were discussing and he pointed that out. At the end of the day, you die only once. So why rush? It's now or sooner. This brings to the end of our second segment, everyone. We are going to come back with Ron again and with a different aspect of Ron, which is again the DJ, the networking, the motivational speaker, and the entertainer. So thank you and see you soon.
I'm at KacyC English Excel at Canada in Brampton. I'm here to study the IELTS General Training course. It's a 5-hour intensive writing course which includes all the writing task 1 strategies and writing task 2 strategies too.
simplicity is as simple as you can make it. So here we have Ron Finlay, our personal, very simple and very humble personality, which we have learned so much from to really make your choices, weight your averages, and calculate each and every decision. So Ron, talking about the wedding planning stuff, which is my favorite topic, as I'm a girl and really looking forward for the big day, one day. Looking at your product design, I can see that there is a connection with the design and the wedding planning, because both connect in some way, because weddings also like designing and inventing and really coming with up colors. So like, how do you look at that entertainment aspect of the wedding planning and the product design experience which you have? So like, I mean, how would the connection be there?
Okay, a couple things. First of all, the DJ business is now in year 37. The wedding planning is probably around 8 or 9 officially. But if you think about it, the DJ, when he gets to the wedding at 6 o'clock for the reception, everything is done. By the time I get there, the flowers are done, the ceremony's over, the decor's there, the food's been chosen, the room layout, everything is done. And I walk into these rooms by the hundreds, and I ask myself, why is the cake over here? Why'd they put the podium here? The head table should have been against this wall. Why is this? Why is that? Who planned this? And I see the bride and groom stressed out over budget and all these things. So I thought, okay, there's got to be a solution. And so, just like the origination of the DJ business, of just deciding to do something about it, I started looking at weddings from an engineering perspective, and that is data.
Data.
No emotion. And I know a wedding's emotional, but here's the point. Why fall in love with the wedding you can't afford?
True.
Because the one you end up with will be a disappointment by definition.
It's a disaster.
It will be a second-rate wedding by your definition, because it isn't the one you wanted. So I started looking at the wedding as a collection of data.
Okay.
Numbers of guests, costs for stuff, whatever the things are, the dress, the tuxedos, the cake, all these things you buy or rent, what have you. And I built a spreadsheet that calculates the cost of a wedding. And I then started taking industry average prices, and I entered all this data, and it calculates the cost of your wedding. And if you can't afford that number, this is not your wedding, it's someone else's. And you need to get on board with the fact that you can't afford this wedding, and you're going to be unhappy if you cut corners.
True.
So then I would take then I had what I call a value index, where I would put a value on the impact that each of these items made. Some items have higher impact than others. And so the ones you want to take away are the low impact ones. So based on that, we do all that with data. Once we get the price where you can say, I can afford this, now we layer in emotion. Because if you have a $2,000 dress you like and a $2,000 dress you don't like, but they're both $2,000, you obviously go with the one you like. If you have a $2,000 dress you hate and a $2,200 dress you love, where's the $200 going to come from? Because you do not want to buy the lesser dress, because you're going to hate it. That $200 has to come from somewhere. And so we take some engineering contingency funding philosophy called extra, which I also get from the renovating side of my business. The part that you don't know about me yet, well, we haven't added anyway, is that I renovate houses. So when you renovate a house and you start tearing it apart, you run into problems. How you solve the problems is you put in a 10 or 15% contingency. So if you're going to spend $40,000, you're now going to spend $45,000. And that extra $5,000 is available. If you need it, you need it. If you don't, you don't. But you're not going to not do it if you have to spend it. It's there. It's not that you have to go and get more money. You already have it. And that allows you the room to maneuver, because the real world is maneuvering, right? So that's how the wedding planning got born, was out of frustration, like the DJ business got created out of frustration for people who don't care.
And the caring part, yes.
And it comes into caring. And what we found was that all the books with checklists, 9 months to go, 6 months to go, this is when you should do all these things, those checklists are fundamentally wrong. And we can prove it.
Yes.
And they're wrong by over $10,000 wrong. Which for a couple to plan their wedding that way and then find out that they're in financial trouble creates stress. So what we found is that they make 3 mistakes 100%. You're going to love this statistic. 100% of couples make 3 mistakes before they hire the very first vendor.
Yeah.
During the planning, they make at least 3 more mistakes, and they don't know it. So now they've made 6 financially impactful mistakes. They don't know it, and their solution will become DIY. At the end of it all, they'll start doing things themselves. They'll have a friend take pictures, buddy will do the music, I'll make my own flowers, I'll try and do this and that, and they start cutting corners. And this is not the plan, this is not the emotional wedding they wanted, it's what they're going to now settle for because of a budget issue. So my whole thinking was, if I can replace all that stress with data, no emotion until the numbers match, and then we get emotional about and excited, and wonderfully so, about what we're actually going to have, knowing it's going to succeed, like I knew the switch was going to work. And all of the switches I designed ran at what we call 0 ppm, which is 0 parts per million failure.
Yeah.
All of the ones I designed never failed in their lifetime in the cars. And that's neat, and I'm not bragging, I'm just trying to show people that what I've discovered and applied consistently and with caring has produced results that I stand very proud of in my lifetime. And I'm anxious to share through the workshops what I've learned and teach people some of these things that they can fit. And being a person who attends workshops and seminars all the time, I find that a lot of times you're watching the person on stage and you're following along and it makes total sense while they're talking. But when you leave, you're now thinking, okay, I don't know how to use this. Because you're so engrossed in listening, but you're not able to simultaneously put it somewhere in your own internalization. The way I try to teach people is to allow them to put that into their own life, so they're kind of thinking in 2 phases. They're listening to me, but they're also thinking, we're going to use it, we're going to use it, we're going to use it. And they're starting to imagineer. That's the word I use, imagineer.
Imagineer.
So they're imagineering where they will use what I'm telling them, and they start to buy into it because they can see purpose.
Yes.
When you see purpose, you now have direction. And that leads to the dedication and the commitment and all of these things. And because you have confidence and you can see the end, and you truly now can afford to care because the data says it's going to work, and so now you can get emotional. And you can get supercharged about anything. You can get supercharged about tiling your backsplash in your kitchen.
Yes.
And there are some mistakes people make 100% of the time when they backsplash a kitchen. The tile on the wall.
Tile on the wall.
And it's the first course is wrong. And I find that fascinating because everything else is built on a mistake. So I get really critical on the comic side, but I'm dead serious. I see problems everywhere I go, and I look for them, and guess what? The solution is one of the 5 rules.
Wow.
So I constantly revolve in this world of mine, and I am super excited to now be doing workshops to share my life's experience. And it's the next 2 books. I've written 15, you know, in the DJ space.
Awesome. So
There's 15 books there, but there's 2 more that are in the works, and one of them is about these 5 rules.
So everybody, just to mention here again, Ron has written books on networking, which is very interesting. Networking is really very important in today's world. Number 1 and foremost is to build your business up, to make connections, to know, not to know what, but to know who.
And why.
So it's, who and the why. So Ron, Matrix Unleashed. Wow. That's not a movie name, everybody.
No, it's not.
That's a workshop name, a 2-day workshop by Ron, where he actually teaches us networking and also how to get successful in your business. Ron, tell us more, please.
Okay, so now we go backwards again. Back in 1984, I discovered a book that was how to write a book. Seemed rather awkward that way. The challenge was back then that when computers were becoming popular, people would needed to learn how to use the program. And the books to explain how to use the program were so big. Can you imagine today if you had a book on how to use, say, Excel? And there's a whole row of icons. What's an icon? Well, you click it. What do you mean click? Imagine teaching someone that knew nothing.
Yeah.
Where would you even begin?
Yeah.
So this book explained how to write a book to write that instruction set.
Okay.
And I realized the power of this thing. And so I began to tamper with it, and it's from that that I built the database in which the 5 rules solution to that $60 million problem is sitting.
Oh, wow.
It's actually in the database that I created from all my experience. One line out of the 1,350 lines had the answer, but nobody wanted to read it.
Read it. Yeah.
Again, not enough dedication. And yet, in a spreadsheet, you can sort. So you could have found it in 3 seconds. But they don't put in the time.
Yeah.
And so therein lies the aiming too low. So the idea was that I found this way to look at data, and it uses a spreadsheet, so your viewers don't have to worry about buying software. It's nothing magical like that. It's really simple. It's a change in philosophy. It's a change in how you look at processes, whether it's processes in your business, how you answer your phone. Now think about that. How do you answer your phone? If you answer your business phone a certain way, and you're not consistent, let's just say, how do you teach me to be your receptionist when you don't even know what you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's the document that explains what you want me to say?
Yeah.
You can take every process in your business, we call them hats. People in business say, oh, I wear so many hats. What they mean philosophically is that they're the boss, they're the owner, they're the phone answering person, they're the stock person, they're the marketing person, they're the everything persons. They wear these 50 different hats.
Yeah.
My wife has 65, I have 2 of hers. So she runs her own business too. And so she said, I have 65 hats. Okay, I'll take 2. So the issue is that they are not good at all of this stuff. They start a business, which is the thing that they want to be great at, and they are. But then they have all this stuff to do. They have all these marketing and sales and contracts to write and meetings and trade shows, and they all this stuff. And the stuff chokes the thing. And now their business is now busyness, spelled with a Y.
Oh, I love that.
So business with an I and busyness with a Y, they're very different. And so people fund their business with their savings or their day job, and their business, which was a hobby, never becomes a business. And the problem is, how do you sell it? Because no one will buy this thing that relies on your head. So I asked them, is your business sustainable? Well, not the way you're doing it. Because no one wants to work the hours you're working. No one would. That's not a business I would want to buy. So it's not sustainable. And because you don't have processes documented, it's not trainable. And because it's not trainable, it's now not scalable. And because it's not scalable, it's not saleable.
Wow.
So those are the 4 pillars upon which the matrix. So the matrix, and for people who understand mathematics, the matrix is a process in algebra for solving multiple simultaneous equations without all the clutter. So I took this matrix philosophy in mathematics, and I married it with the book on how to write a book. And I came up with this thing, and I thought, boy, if I ever let this loose, and so that's unleashed. And so I called the workshop The Matrix Unleashed.
Unleashed.
As in to let loose. And so what happens on day 1 is we take people through networking. We teach them how to own the room in a networking environment. When I walk in a room, and I'm always dressed in pink the first time you see me, and you remember that the first time, I'm here the first time on your TV show, but the first time people see me, I'm always in pink, and the second time there's 4 colors, and there's a reason.
Is pink your favorite color?
No, it's not. It was a discovery that I was taught.
Okay.
And one day I was wearing this pink shirt. I was actually taking the garbage out. And the mailman was across the street. And I'm dressed like this going to an event. But I'm taking out the garbage. And he hollers from across the street, "Nice shirt."
Oh, really?
And I thought, wow, that's interesting. And I had that compliment paid to me many times, "Nice shirt." Now, interestingly, not "you look nice in the shirt." The shirt is nice. So I just took the shirt on the hanger and walked around with a hanger. I thought that was funny. Nice shirt. I thought I have 2 of them. So I have 2 of everything. So anyway, so we take people through this whole thing on networking. So as I said, when I go to a networking event, there's one other piece I wear that's not here today. And
it's looking professional too. You don't.
Well, I try to. Well, yeah. If you look professional, people will gravitate. If you look like a slob, they will not come near you. And there's a whole magnetics to that. But there's something else I wear, and all I do is walk in a room and stand there, and people come from 30 feet away to come see me. And I'm not bragging. They don't even know me yet.
Yeah.
But I have a little magnetic piece of curiosity, and that draws people to come and see me, which means I get to meet more people. So we teach people networking. We teach them this dreaded elevator speech. Now, there are 15 elevator speeches. Most people don't even have a good one.
Good one, yes.
Why? Because the Matrix says so.
Yeah.
Then we teach them elevator speech, business card design. There are 18 things that go in a business card and 9 that don't.
Okay.
And most business cards will fail epically, and because that's important when you give out your business card.
Yeah.
The next thing we talk about is an email, and we found that there are 41 pieces to an email, and most people don't have that. So when they communicate, they're not putting their best self forward. So then we wrap up the Matrix workshop, and we actually take your stuff and we put it into the Matrix, and you fix all of your own business.
And it's customized and personalized.
And it's in 2 days, so it's epic.
That really seems very interesting. Ron, could you quickly tell us about your goals, which are twofold? What are those?
Okay, I have 2 goals. One is to deploy the Matrix workshop and teach as many people as I can, and you're going to be a huge help to that. I know you are, and your audience is fabulous. So I'm looking to reach out to people and offer that help, because I think what I do is different.
Okay.
And because it's measurable and it's defined and it's very precise, I think they will immediately start to imagineer how they can use it. And when you use it, then good. If you don't use it, you lose it.
Yes.
So I think that's critical.
Yes.
And for my DJ business, I am getting older. That's pretty hard to hide, but I bring a wealth of experience, and I'm hoping
That's fashion too nowadays.
Oh, absolutely. Well, maybe so. Well, we have to go with that.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping to reach out to people who are planning weddings and parties of any culture. I find that music is a universal language of humanity. So I find that there is no boundary in that capacity. What I think that's lacking is someone who actually cares. More about the outcome of the event than the client.
And the client, yes.
And so that's my drive, is to care more than they do, and it's their event. So I'm anxious to meet with more people who would want to contact me and have a conversation about how my entire life philosophy can create an event that is memorable. And what I say to people is, I create moments so you can have memories.
This talk has really created, Rita, so much of intrigue and interest. And as we were speaking to Ron, I was just dreaming. I was just so curious, and we were learning. It was as if that I am just sitting there being curious onto how to really get those things done. And he teaches that in the workshop.
And KacyC, even looking at the change aspect part of it, that, I mean, the KacyC show is also about bringing change and trying to bring, or you don't like the word trying,
no, we
will definitely bring change towards it's a platform to bring change, and Mr. Ron is a living example, being a DJ, a professor, a wedding planner, a latte dance.
I would like to add his core values, which is, I'm going to read because there are so many: honesty, integrity, reliability, responsibility, respect, result focused. Wow. And your tagline is, we bring experience so you can take one home. He's got the experience, and you got to take it home, everybody. So this brings us to the end of the KacyC show, and we saw through Ron, we did lead to some excellence. So it was a lead to excel. Thank you very much, Ron, for being on our show today. We learned, and we look forward to also attend your workshops and learn even more. Thank you.
Pleasure
you,
being here. Thank you very much.
Any last message you'd like to give before we leave today?
I think to all your viewers should be watching your show, because the show is a catalyst. The show is on a mission.
Yes.
You're not going to give up, and they should not give up watching and supporting you.
Awesome. So
that was so humble.
Change. We loved hearing that. Thank you, everybody. See you again next week with a new guest, with a new topic. Allah Hafiz, and bye.
Bye.